Okay, so we have finished the first 3 weeks of class for course learning outcome number 1. And as I mentioned early at the beginning of the semester, once we finish CLO1, you are going to be tested. Okay, so test 1 will be coming very soon. Okay, so get ready. Maybe we will do that things next week, half an hour test. Okay, so we will continue with this topic. Planning and scheduling is a long topic anyway. First, we start with introduction. I have shown you the management process figure. Basically, in the middle is the what we call the objective of project management. To simplify, we just put in the triple constraint, and then we do have 5M there. Okay, resources, and in order to utilize the resources, we need the management process or management mechanism, such as planning, organizing, etc. and etc. Okay, we already cover organizing, just one topic to introduce about what is organizing is all about. Now our focus is basically on scheduling, on planning. Main objective of management: when people set up a business, such as contractor, for instance, what could be their thinking? For sure, the thinking is basically to make money. In any business, when you set up a business, except that business is not to say business, it is might be NGO or charity organization, and your objective could be different. But other than that, the normal standard of business is basically to generate some kind of money. And how to generate money or profit? Okay, not by cheating. Well, you can make a lot of money by cheating, going all against the rule and regulation. For instance, you want to get people approve your lousy work, for instance, you can bribe people. Well, you can make a lot of money out of that, but that is not the concept in the proper ethical manners. So, in order to maximize profit, again, how do we calculate profit? Okay, very easy formula. Value, meaning to say contract value, is equivalent to total cost plus profit. Total cost, contract value is the value that you get from contract from the client. Let's say 10 million ringgit. Your total cost could be 9 million, and then 1 million is basically your profit. When you put up your tender, basically you will put 10 million. So if the client agree, that 10 million will be sealed as the amount that the client will pay you. So out of that, basically you do make profit, except that you might not tell the client how much you make profit. But roughly in construction industry, 10% net profit could be achievable. Okay, could be reasonable. But when you put profit, you might put profit, initial profit could be higher, because maybe the way you manage things, even though you might put profit 20%, at the end of the day, you will get 10% due to many factors. One of the factors is basically poor project control. Okay, poor project control. Reduction of error. Control in terms of what? This is example of control of quality. When, for instance, you have a poor people who are very unskillful, they normally do a lot of mistake. They normally do things without following any rule and standard and whatnot, and the work could be rejected. That could be the issue. Eliminating waste. This is material. We do have a lot of wastage at construction site. Perhaps again due to poor site management, perhaps due to poor adoption of 3R, reduce, recycle, and reuse. Reduce uncertainty in timing. Timing basically involve planning. Okay, involve planning. That's why we do planning, and planning basically need to be more realistic. Okay, example, when we calculate, when we put a certain duration for certain activities, it is not based on assumption, it is based on calculation. When you want to calculate things, there must be some kind of fact and figures that you refer to. So sometimes people just simply do planning just for the sake of submission because client do ask those things. Avoid unnecessary penalties. This is again when you face delays, for sure you will encroach into project completion time, and then you will be imposed some kind of penalty. Again, it will increase your cost. When the cost increase, for sure your profit will be reduced. Okay, effective control, quality control, overall project control, etc., etc., efficiency, utilization of resources, man, machine, and material, or even proper work method can have a lot of influence on the cost. Okay, so the bigger cost will go into all these unnecessary things. At the end of the day, you will reduce profit. And not to mention, if for instance you deal with what we call accident. When accident happen, stop work order, basically you already lost the productivity. You have to pay compensation, bad reputation for your organization. People might not be coming to your workplace to work because people are afraid of something bad happening to them. So all those things will add up to the total cost. At the end of the day, cost increase, profit reduce. Okay, what is planning? Planning, as we mentioned, is a thinking process, coming up with what to do, okay, what to do, example, what to do, who is going to get involved, where is the location, which equipment, when, and then how to implement, how much does it cost. So basically it involves 5W plus H, okay, could be one H or whatever H. H is basically how to do things. So that is what we call planning, thinking process. Of course, when we talk about thinking process, there are elements of uncertainties. There are elements of some kind of prediction. But nowadays, due to the fact that we do have a lot of data inside the computer, which can assist us in making a better decision, especially doing planning. Element of planning, we set objective, what to be achieved. When you do have something to be achieved or vision goal, whatever, then you need to plan for it. Okay, otherwise you wouldn't do a lot of things now because you don't have anything to achieve. So everything must start with what is your KPI, objective, target, etc., etc., that we can summarize in terms of objective. Why we call it objective? Objective normally we break down into a smaller portion so that it can be measurable. Okay, when we can measure things, it is easier to measure the progress of certain works. Action, meaning to say you come up with a strategy how to achieve your objective, and for sure you need resources because everything nowadays you need man, machine, material, at least these are the three things, and other material that can assist you. Okay, for instance, nowadays we are talking about the tools. uh, Internet could be the big things in the near future. For instance, previously we have not seen those wider utilization, especially in Malaysia, but maybe in the next future it will be included as required resources. And the good planning is that we do not do the planning just on paper. Good planning must be implemented. Then only we can know to what extent it can achieve the objective. Okay, hierarchy of planning. Purpose. Purpose is like aim. When you do your what we call final year project, okay, you are now taking the research methodology. Lecturer will tell you about the concept. Okay, always lecturer will tell you about what is your aim of your study. Aim normally only one aim. But then how about the objective? You can split the objective into a few. Maybe in undergraduate study, we expect the objective to be 1, 2, 3. The most would be 4. Okay, because normally this one is measurable. Then you come up with a strategy. Okay, strategy or research methodology how to achieve this objective. What method? Some of you might have to do testing. Some of you might have to do data collection, collect sample here and there. Some of you might be doing some kind of questionnaire interview, especially you do in project management. And then procedure and whatever uh, procedure or way to do things, especially when you are doing testing. You must follow strict procedure, otherwise your result will not be accurate. Similarly, when you do what we call questionnaire, the questionnaire design must abide certain rule and regulation, etc., etc. And for sure, you need budget. Okay, you need budget in order to achieve those objective, aim, and etc. Project plan element. Okay, you must understand the overall concept of what you want to plan. For instance, if you are planning for certain project development, such as your IDP project, let's say you do have a piece of land that you plan to basically construct many building on that piece of land. So when you do planning, the planning should reflect the overall construction of all the building inside those plot. Okay, you do not want to miss even a small thing. So you get the overview of what's going on based on the drawings, design, and whatnot. Then only you can have a proper or realistic planning. Contractual approach. Okay, sometimes the contract tell you or tell us in certain time frame, certain work have to be completed, especially for marketing purposes. Sometimes developer want to launch first phase, second phase, and etc. etc. So they will set certain constraint, okay, in terms of contractual matters. So you must follow those things. Schedule is basically the timing, okay, when you want to start something, when you want to end something, what are the resources. Resources will reflect the timing as well. Let's say, for instance, if you want to do excavation, if you do excavation manually using manual labor, of course it will take longer. If you replace those manual labor by excavator, it will be much faster. But if you bring in not only one excavator, two excavator, three excavator, for sure you can cut down on the number of duration of the activities. So you see, resources basically interrelated with the duration of the activity. But sometimes when you want to come up with resources is not there, it's not available. Or maybe you are thinking about cutting down the cost. Instead of renting a new equipment, you just make use of whatever equipment that you have. Your equipment could be very old, low capacity, but what to do? Okay, you want to cut costs. So it depends. Number of people around will have implication on the timing as well. If you bring in more people, for sure, things will get done easy, much faster. Evaluation method. When you do planning, the planning might not be the same as the actual. So that's why we do have process of monitoring. Monitoring. In planning, we do not call monitoring, we call it tracking. Tracking, it is the same concept anyway. Project tracking. So project tracking will basically, we will evaluate to what extent our progress is comparable with the planning. If, for instance, it deviate, or we call it variance, if the variance is too much, the variance could be negative. Negative normally associated with bad things. Let's say negative variance. So meaning to say our project is running late or under budget as opposed to what's supposed to be spent, and then we need to do something. Okay. And we expect potential problem. That's what planning is all about. Planning is for the future. Why? Because we want to reduce uncertainty. Let's say if we want to do a big casting as we plan in certain area, we must be thinking, can the concrete, what we call plant, batching plant, supply that huge amount of concrete within a short period of time, in a few hours? Because normally when you do a big casting, you do not want to stop. It will go on and on for a few hours. It will be maybe, I don't know how much cubic meter of concrete that you need. And maybe in that area, there is no what we call available batching plant. Then what could be your strategy? So once you understand the situation ahead of time, then you can come up with ways to reduce all those issues. Okay, planning. You see, when you do planning, the planning might not be equivalent to actual. Actual is the during the implementation. You will see the variance. Variance is the terminology being used to denote the differences between plan versus actual, or in lab work that you have done in UTM. You normally sometimes you calculate standard deviation or deviation. So deviation and variance is basically the same things. Okay, whatever things which is not the same as comparable to plan or even the average, that is what we call variance. Okay, so if the variant is there is no variant, so okay, you can go ahead with whatever thing that you have planned, you have planned before. But if there is a variant and the variant is very big, significant, then you try to find what could be the causes, and then you propose the corrective action, and then it will go back to the concept of planning again and again. At the end of the day, you implement those things, and then you monitor again. That is what we call the loop or the cycle. Okay. If the project is going on for 2 years, you cannot expect your planning to be remain static. Planning is not just one time event. Just you plan at the beginning of the project, that's it. You expecting is going to be running as what you plan. No, it is impossible. Okay, just imagine when you come to UTM first year, maybe you have some kind of planning in terms of what you want your CGPA to be and whatnot. And now, after 3 or 4 years of study, you see what happened. So whatever thing that you plan is might not be happening as what you wish. Okay, that is the concept of planning. So the target must be there. Okay, It is not to say the target in terms of project budget and then time completion must be complied, because otherwise we are going to be penalized for that. Okay, but then you try to come up with the strategy how to achieve those targets. Important of planning, coordinating effort. When you do planning, sometimes planning is being done by project manager or engineer. Okay, so one of the job function for engineer is do planning. So that's why we need to learn this thing, because you plan, you put the thinking, and then you pass the planning to supervisor. Then supervisor will break down the work to be passed to the foreman, and then foreman will get the workers leader and tell them what to do, etc., etc., in terms of daily work. But everybody will be delegated some kind of works. The most important thing, everybody work for the sake of the project. The project objective is only one. At the end of the day, that building must be completed. But then you can break up in order to delegate the works. So coordination is very important. You just imagine in construction, we do have so many suppliers, so many subcontractors, especially subcontractor would like to come to the construction site as soon as possible, because once they get the job done, meaning to say they will get the payment. But they simply cannot, because they need to wait for certain timing, especially for electrical, mechanical subcontractors. Prepare for change. Okay, there is no guarantee that your planning is going to run perfectly 100%. There is no such thing as a perfect plan. Okay, so you will expect some changes. You cannot avoid to have changes. It will happen whether you like it or not. The most important thing is basically how do you manage the changes. Okay, that is the most important thing. And then developing performance, this is what we call KPI. We set the KPI. If we do not set the KPI, then we never know to what extent our work is basically progressing. Is it good, bad, or whatever? Developing manager. Okay, not only you develop all the KPI in terms of work, but human resources also have to be developed along the way, because not everybody know how to do things. So you must send people, not only manager, you must send supervisor, even a foreman, or even workers nowadays in Malaysia, they need to be certified. CIDB Malaysia nowadays are very strict. They require the project manager to be certified, supervisors to be certified, and then skilled workers, especially the welder, the scaffolding workers or team. Almost everybody now need to be certified. Okay, so that their skill is up to certain standard. So training will be part and parcel to develop the people so that they are well versed with the work that they want to do. Why people fail in planning? First is commitment, not committed in planning. Planning is just merely for the sake of submission. That is not that is not accurate, because you plan as if you are getting the project. That should be the thinking. Even though you might not get a project, out of 100 people who submitted the tender, the winner will be one person, one contractor only. So you expect that you are going to lose. But what if for instance, if you do poor planning, at the end of the day, somehow you got a job, then you will be asking for trouble, because maybe there are many things that you will not consider during your planning. Failure to develop and implement sound strategy. A lot of people can do planning, but then strategy how to achieve those KPI is simply not there. Especially there is no support from the top management in terms of giving proper budget, proper training, proper tool. For instance, in order to do planning, you need to have software, and in order to if even if you already have software, you must be sent for training uh, in the Microsoft project. Okay, it will take a few days in order to understand the software itself, and understanding the software itself might not be sufficient. You must basically learn more from experienced people how basically to interpret the outcome of whatever input that you put into the software. That is more critical than understanding the software itself. Failure to see the scope of plan, sometimes people just simply miss certain thing. The planning is not that realistic. The planning should be comprehensive enough, realistic, that reflect the things that you want to do. Failure to see rational planning as rational process, excessive reliance on experience. Experience is very important, but then don't try to be what we call overconfidence. Overconfident in such a way you do not want to expect problems. Okay, let's say you have done this kind of project many times. You will say, "Ah, there is no problem. This project I have been doing for many times." No, no, no. We should be try to be realistic that whenever we do any project, even though that project is our bread and butter, for instance, that we know this thing very well, we should expect problems, and we should plan for the solution. That is what this statement basically referred to. Lack of management support. Management have to put aside budget in terms of planning and scheduling. You need to send people for training. Okay, nobody can be expert just by looking at the software or going through the YouTube, because sometimes YouTube, how long can you basically watch the YouTube? The best thing is basically to go for proper training. Okay, you thought that when you learn civil engineering in UTM for 4 years, after this you want to graduate as soon as possible because you don't have to read the books anymore. Well, I tell you, when you start working, you will read more and more. Perhaps one day you need to finish one stack of file, as if one thick textbook. But in university, you spend the whole semester just to read a small few pages of textbook. But when you go outside there, um, especially during tender, in 1 month, the company could be trying to get a few tender. So just imagine, the work will be never ending business. Okay, you have to work until night reading all kind of material, contractual matters, and then prepare here and there. Then only you will appreciate the university life. Lack of clear delegation of work. The purpose of planning is basically to delegate the works. Who is going to be in charge with about something? But then sometimes you break up the work not in equal amount. Then it will create the problem, because people might not like it because other people will get more job, whereas the other people get less. Lack of adequate control technique. Okay, control technique is happening during construction. People can plan, implement, and then a lot of problem will happen during this stage. Okay, so that would be the first topic. Okay, let me